Hey everyone, Argonath here from The Right Way. Got a really interesting article from Rodney Hyde. If you're not from New Zealand, he was a former politician who was kind of on the right side of politics. And he's got a really interesting article about something I've talked about before with regards to vaccine passports, which is it's very similar to what Nazi Germany used to do back in when they were in power and had control over other countries and so on. So I'd really like to read this article because it puts my thoughts into good clarity here. So it starts off with papers. That's the chilling demand that sends a shiver down the spine. There's the man in uniform. He controls your life. He decides whether you go or stay. The demand for papers was life behind the Iron Curtain. It's symbolic of why we had World War II. Right, this is the whole point of why so many people gave their lives for freedom, so that we didn't have Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan and fascist Italy take over the whole world and control the world's population, where you couldn't do anything unless you had the correct papers and you had permission to do whatever it is that you want to do. You had no freedom. But this is what New Zealand is going to be ending up like, whereas other countries have seen the light and have not moved that way. We've read it in books and seen it in movies. It's very scary, obviously. But we were free. No one in uniform could demand to know who we were or demand to know our status. We were free citizens, not subjects. We could travel unhindered. Our government didn't track us. That was long ago. This is now. This is happening in New Zealand, right? If you are in a country which have some sort of vaccine certificates or so on, this is what you're going to be living with as well. People standing at the door of a shop or somewhere going, show me your papers. Now it could be a physical paper or it could be a digital certificate which is on your phone or something. It's exactly the same thing. Unless you show it, you are not going to be able to do what you want it to do. That demand is now fait accompli. Before the year's out, we will need to carry our papers or digital ID wherever we go. The police will be empowered to demand to see official documentation of who we are and our status. We could be innocently enjoying a cup of coffee when the police arrive for a spot check. Papers. You might think this is fanciful, but I wouldn't put it past the New Zealand government and the police to be doing things like that, right? So yeah, maybe they do want to do spot checks and make sure that people have whoever's enjoying their coffee or whatever it is that they're doing have actually been vaccinated, and you need to show your papers. This is not the New Zealand that I want to live in. This is not the New Zealand that so many people died to give us our freedom. We are slowly having our freedoms eroded because the government, under the guise of COVID-19, have been able to push through their agenda, and also because they've had a majority in the Parliament. Our movements will be trackable. The government will know where we are and where we have been. We will need our passports up to date to travel within New Zealand. Our status will determine what work we can do and where we can go. This is now New Zealand. I'm not so sure whether our movements will be trackable because you'll need to show your vaccine certificate to someone, essentially show your papers, but whether they actually then take a record that you visited that particular place or not, we have to wait and see. But it could be a real possibility, right? And that would be way too far to go in that particular direction. But yes, we've already seen that if you don't have a vaccine certificate, you will not be able to work in certain industries. Basically, you are out of those particular industries. You need to find somewhere else. Personally, I feel if you can get vaccinated, you should get vaccinated because it's going to save your life, because COVID is coming. It's going to come to everyone in New Zealand. There's no way around that. But it's your choice. If you choose not to, then I don't think you should be forced to do that. You just need to deal with the consequences of that particular decision. The thing is, in New Zealand, there's been no debate, no discussion, no proposal, no vote. It's just been announced despite our Prime Minister ruling such a vaccine passport out only a few short weeks ago. We don't know the policy, the law, the limits, or where it will end. We are told vaccine passports are necessary to protect those we love. It's the inconvenience we must endure to be no longer shuttered at home. It's because the Delta virus is like nothing else and the government must keep us safe. Well, if you're vaccinated, you shouldn't have any problems, right? Because that's the whole point of the vaccination, as I've said many times in my previous videos, right? So they're just doing it for control. Or I've just seen a report in the UK that because of the vaccination rate, they're up to about, I think, 65 to 70% double vaccinated. The number of cases is more in vaccinated people than in unvaccinated people now. So we can see that having a vaccination or not having a vaccination is not making much difference to the number of cases because both groups are getting it. In the meantime, we can't meet, protest, or speak out. Yep, we're not allowed to do protests anymore because that would break the restriction rules we have in New Zealand. So you can't even protest. And pretty much that's the only way an ordinary New Zealander can make the government listen, through the numbers of people going out to a protest, because they don't give a shit any other way. They have a majority in Parliament. They can push through whatever agenda they want. Dissenting voices are shouted down. Our newspapers and broadcasts are now public health broadsheets and organs of the government propaganda. Journalists don't laugh at the government declaring the beehive theatre at the podium of truth because they are all complicit. All the mainstream media are complicit. You see it all the time in all the newspaper articles, on TV and so on, peddling the fear porn in New Zealand about COVID-19 and the Delta variant, trying to get people as scared as possible so that we will submit to the government and let them do whatever they want to do. They no longer give voice to dissent or opposition. They ignore or viciously attack it. I have seen a couple of articles which are dissenting on the government view. So a couple of articles are getting through, but on the whole, generally, pretty much they're all propaganda pieces for the government. Want to see your mum? Better make sure your papers are in order. The same if you want a cup of coffee or a haircut. This is the new New Zealand. Basically, it's like living in 1930s, 40s Germany, under the rule of those particular evil people. We just have a different sort of evil people running New Zealand. Jacinda Ardern is so good at making ordinary New Zealanders feel nice about themselves. She's got a very calming demeanour when she talks, but she has no substance in what she talks. She can't answer any questions. That's why she no longer appears on particular radio station broadcasts or TV station broadcasts, because she doesn't like any hard questions asked of her, because she doesn't have any answers. So I personally am totally against vaccine certificates, because if you've had the vaccine, you shouldn't have a problem with mixing with someone who has not got the vaccine. And as we can see in the UK, there are more cases among vaccinated people than there are among unvaccinated people. So eventually it's not going to make, so that's why the UK have dropped their vaccine certificates. There's no point, right? You shouldn't need it. The government here is just trying to scare people. They are trying to segregate people, and we can see them pitting one group against another group, and the group that they're trying to ostracize is tending to be of minority ethnicities, of the people that they're supposed to be very caring about, but they're not. But these people, I don't know if they'll ever wake up. They're too wedded to the government to provide them their living, being able to live, being able to get money to buy stuff, so that they have to keep voting them in. Anyway, let me know what you think of this article from Rodney Hyde. I thought it was a really good article. It clearly states what I've been saying in quite a few videos already. I think he's done a really nice job in this particular article. It won't get the publicity that it deserves because the mainstream media would never pick it up, because it goes completely against the narrative of the government and the left-wing mainstream media, who are completely biased in New Zealand. If you're in a different country, are you having the same sorts of problems with your media as well? I'd really love to know in the comments section. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like the video, you're welcome to give me a thumbs down. And if you like my content, please subscribe, as it means that my content will be noticed by the YouTube algorithm. Alright, hopefully I will catch you in the next video.